to the podcast. I appreciate you taking time for me.
Kids benefit just from participating.
Creating a sense of hope in some of the most hopeless scenarios.
I learn from my mistakes and my error.
Every single day when you feel like quitting, find motivation. Welcome back to the podcast. Honored to have you here. This is season 1, and I have someone who I know a lot about, but you may not know. She just happened to stop in, and I had some time in between sets. I said, well, why don't I get you on camera? Before we get started, I always start everyone off with a quick word. And I want to talk about something that's very important to me, about the power of enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is something that I think we all should have. Enthusiasm is more than screaming, shouting, jumping up and down, doing jumping jacks. But I'll never forget, I got an email one time and they talked about enthusiasm and what it meant. And enthusiasm, when you break it down into words, you know, I'm a wordsmith, I'm an educator. You break it down into 3 syllables. E-N, inward, theos, the study of God, and ism is like any other thing, it lives. So another way of enthusiasm is the spirit of God within. So we're gonna jump into it today with our wonderful guest, Miss Danielle Yakey. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Man, amen, enthusiasm. I am glad to be here. Surprise, but.
Now tell the audience, you have a name that is very popular with the last name Yakey. How have you gotten to know this last name Yakey?
How did I acquire it?
Yeah, that too.
I acquired the last name Yakey after saying yes to a proposal over 15 years ago.
And who was that person that proposed to you?
That proposed to me.
Say his name.
To be you.
Thank you. Just say my name. Just say my name. We get there.
Fred Yakey.
Thank you.
Jr.
Yeah.
Thomas Yakey Jr.
Senior. I'm a senior. I have a son.
That's right. We have a son now. I forget. Look, I'll explain why my thought process isn't as clear as it should be. Yeah. But yes, Frederick Yakey. Senior.
Thank you. So listen, this is all about mentorship. The theme of this is guiding the outer man. Grooming the outer man, guiding the inward man. And I want to talk about mentorship and what that means to you and how that has shaped you. You do something that's very unique, something that's very special. Talk to us a little bit, how has mentorship shaped you in your life? How did you become who you were? And if you could think of it, what does mentorship have to do with that?
Mentorship. Currently, I would say mentorship has created, cultivated the passion that I have now to help others. To the greatest degree, my parents have been the mentors that I needed and examples that I needed in life. I didn't go through any formal program with the mentor, but I worked for several years with the mentorship program. Some may have heard of it before, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Actually, when we met, I was working
absolutely.
there. An amazing mentorship program, and through my work there as well, learned the benefits of that prior to working with them. My background is in social work, so I've always been passionate about finding ways to help others overcome their challenges and barriers to success, as I've learned with the help of my parents that everyone doesn't have supports automatically in place when they are born into scenarios or even experience life challenges as they navigate the journey of life. And as a result, I found it my passion and a place where I could bloom and grow by helping others. It's a mutually beneficial relationship to be able to be part of mentoring, not only program, but a mentoring relationship.
That's great.
And so mentoring has created for me opportunities to learn and grow, and also walk alongside those that may be journeying through some of life's most challenging obstacles and experiences, creating a sense of hope in some of the most hopeless scenarios.
Great, so I think that leads to this. I think you really have a gift. I've been knowing you down through the years, as the church folks say.
Down through the years.
Yeah, it's a long time. But you've done something that I was very proud of, to sit back in awe. You started something that a lot of people typically are running from or they don't want to deal with. It's grief. Dealing with death, dealing with loss. And so much so, you started, I like to call it a ministry called Healing Ground, where you're going around and you're talking to people who have experienced loss, experienced grief, and you add the Bible as well as the clinical research and study to it. kind of talk about how you merge, because it sounds like you have your parents and your faith and your social work. How have you kind of merged those things together to impact others and to help others?
As you mentioned, I created a group called Healing Ground as a result of some of my own challenges and experiences. I mentioned that my background is in social work. Through some of the work that I've done, not only with the mentoring agency, I worked in drug rehabilitation, also worked in entities where right now, like now in an educational capacity where there's been individuals that have encountered challenges that included grief in different capacities. And a lot of times I would find myself referring out to different agencies or referring to services that my clients or family members, friends needed. And on the inside, specifically when it related to grief, I felt like I couldn't do enough in regards to providing the support that they needed. So a lot of times I would make a referral knowing that there's gonna be something else that they're gonna need in the process. And after I experienced my own grief and I had gone through years of, I guess, partnering with other agencies, working in my positions and making referrals and saying, you know, seek out this service, they should be able to help you. And saying, you know, but I wish there was a platform where it was faith-based as well as what, you know, in the church world would say like the secular support, but truly just knowing like the research that is done around grief and applying practical skills that can help us navigate the journey. I wanted to couple the two, and I always wanted to have an agency of that nature to refer folks to. And I kept saying, I wish there was, and I know you've probably had this experience before, where you'll say, I wish there was, and God will be like, so who's gonna be that person? It's gonna be you. Quit referring or quit referencing what should be and what could be when I've given you the capacity to do it. So although I didn't feel like I was ready to or fully equipped to do it in the capacity that I felt like it should be done, it was also a weight and a burden of ministry that, you know, if not you, then who else?
Yeah.
And so after experiencing the loss of my sister, she passed when she was 37, and I, having a background in social services, going through, you know, even before that, working in mental health capacities where I was a school-based therapist working with mental health, and knowing what, I guess, what the textbook, you know, process of what to do and how to deal with, it didn't make a difference when I experienced my own grief, because it was the magnitude of what I was experiencing was so great that I still had to go through my own journey as if I was not aware of any of those things to a degree. So you being my spouse saw it firsthand and know, you know, some of the challenges that I experienced. So after God granted me the ability to navigate my journey of grief and get to a place where I could not only live where I was in autopilot and functioning, but to live again after her passing in a way that it was purposeful and meaningful, and I was breathing, because I always describe to people that there was a level of grief that I experienced when I was almost like suffocating. And I was trying to come up for air. And when I finally came up for air, it was like, okay, God, you haven't left me nor forsaken me like your word says. What am I to do now? And then came Healing Ground. So
it sounds like that your story of grief that everyone has, grief can actually have purpose. And I'm so grateful that you just popped in. I slid you in between. But I think it's powerful that you can do that, and that you did it even though you did not see another blueprint out there. And I think that is in itself mentorship. That mentorship is when you see a need, you simply do it, and you just do it because it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for popping in. Thank you for being on our podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find more about Dani Oyeki. She does have a Facebook page called Healing Ground, or you can find her on LinkedIn and any other social media outlets. Thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for being a part of the podcast.
Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Your husband must be great. I mean, he must be a good dude.
You're
I'm telling
awesome.
you.